Welcome to the Joshua Jordan Experience. Listen to gather mystical insights for an extraordinary life. Hello, my beloved friends. Welcome once again to the Joshua Jordan Experience. I would like to talk to you about paradox. In the book, The Seventh Major Understanding, A Message of Awakening, Joshua teaches us that there are paradox that exist within learning about our whole self. Now, what is a paradox? Basically, a paradox are two statements that sound opposite and yet both are true. So, statements that sound opposite and yet they are both factual. So, what's that like? All right. Well, Joshua tells you, you create your own reality. And so people start thinking, hey, I have a magic wand and I just go around making everything the way I want it to be. Oh, maybe I can even change other people. I can make other people love me. Or no, I'm sorry. You create your own reality, not mine. So, of course, we cannot change the reality of any other human being. The reality that we have control over is our own. So sometimes it's difficult to accept that I have the power to create my reality, and yet I can't just change things like that. I don't have that magic wand. Where is it? There's a billion-dollar industry around this idea of the law of attraction. And people keep going to these law of attraction gurus or going to another seminar, another webinar, another book. There's another, I got to go to another conference because I'm not creating the reality I want. What? Yeah. You create your own reality, and yet most of the time I'm not really creating the reality I want. So what is that? What's that about? That's paradoxical. Yeah. Our power to create reality goes beyond what I can teach you in just a quick video, but I will tell you that you have an internal landscape and a book of law that belongs to that internal landscape. And all of it, every bit of it, is projected outside yourself. So we look at all this stuff outside ourselves and we think, where did that come from? Or who created that? I wouldn't have created that. That doesn't belong in my reality. Or we look outside ourselves and we see people who seem to be better off. Well, look, they have all the things that I desire. So I start to compare myself. How come they get to create a reality that has all the abundance that I have been trying to create and I'm not creating it? What's going on? So all of that can be counterproductive, actually. When you recognize that you create your own experience of reality, but it gets deeper than that. I mean, it's honestly, you have created all of this outside yourself that's manifesting. I know that's hard to imagine from our point of view as human beings. And yet, when you understand oneness and you get into recognizing your whole self, you realize every single bit of this came from my internal landscape. And then I project it out here where I can look at it, interact with it, be a part of it. I also attract every relationship that I have. Oh, every relationship? Yeah. Well, as I mentioned in another video, some of my childhood experiences, childhood relationships, even my early adulthood relationships, not always easy, not always good. So why would I do that? Deepak Chopra explained it in a way where he says, life flows like a river, and one of the banks of the river is pleasure, and one of the banks of the river is sorrow, pain. And we end up in the course of a lifetime banging into both of these banks. And what Chopra tells us is the problems begin when we try to cling to one of the banks. So if we get stuck on the side of not pleasant, not good, life's bad, things are hard, and things get harder, and clinging to that, that's when your life can spiral out of control. He also says that when you try to cling to all positive all the time, everything good, nothing ever disturbs me, I'm always happy, everything's grand, that's unrealistic. And if you believe that happiness is the only reason you're here, I have heard some of these law of attraction gurus tell people the purpose of life is to be happy. Well, you would not learn much if you went through this entire lifetime without a blemish. I'm sorry. I know that sounds terribly rude. And yet, if you went through this lifetime and never encountered a loss or a struggle or a moment of frustration, you would only be half a person with half your feelings. And what meaning does happiness have if we have not known the opposite? What meaning does peace of mind have if you haven't known the opposite? What is the meaning of love and joy if we have not also experienced the lack of that? So, yes, life itself offers us the full spectrum of our experiences, the full spectrum of emotions, and depending upon how expansive you are in your thinking and your creativity, you have a very full spectrum of thoughts. Now, I recognize that humans are creatures of habit, and we get into thought and feeling habits. So ask yourself, examine, what are my thought habits? What are the thought patterns I repeat day after day after day without even realizing? You see, that is self-hypnosis. Every day when you wake up and tell yourself this is going to be a great day, that's self-hypnosis. If you say it every day, you will find that most of your days will be great. And even if it's not, you'll find something great in that day to recognize because of your thought habit. I'm aware that the human brain has something called the reticular activating system, and they call it RAS, RAS, reticular activating system. What is that? It's about mirror neurons, mirror neurons. So if you are looking outside yourself and seeing people who are smiling a lot, your mirror neurons are going to want to mimic that, mirror it. Also, though, if you are sad, unhappy, having a bad day, your mirror neurons are going to look for evidence of that too. Oh, there it is. There it is. There it is. Yep, I knew it was a bad day and I find evidence of it. So, what do you dwell on and how do you go about changing your life? Right? If you want to change your life, you have the power to do that. Joshua assures me. And to change your life, you change what you think about. So paradoxically, one can say the purpose of life is to be happy. The purpose of life is love. Some people say the purpose of life is joy. You know, life is so vast in its purpose and its scope that it's very limiting, in my opinion, to narrow life down to one purpose. Life, yeah, life offers us a great deal of variety, diversity. So to say life only has one very narrow purpose is limiting. And you'll also find that a lot of experiences happen to you outside of that definition you may have. So, if I think you believe that life is meant to be fun and I'm supposed to enjoy myself, if you begin to believe that, your reticular activating system, this RAS thing in your brain, the mirror neurons, will look for proof that you are right, right? So if I tell myself, this is a great day, I'm having a good time, this is fun, I'm being productive, whatever it is I want to be on track with, the more I tell myself that I believe this, the more my mirror neurons will find proof of it out here. But remember, I just told you that everything that's out here came from internal. It is your internal landscape making itself manifest on the planet, right? So, whatever I believe to be true, my mirror neurons will look for proof of it out here, right? Well, whatever I believe to be true, I'm creating in my internal landscape automatically. There's no, how do I do that? You don't have to go to Abraham Hicks and ask, how do I create my own reality? You naturally do that. You are creating your own reality. So, what people, if in their wisdom of the law of attraction, need to be asking their guru, their teacher, whoever it is who's telling them the law of attraction, need to be sharing with you, how do I change my mindset? How do I change my mindset? Because that is the source of everything you're creating. Yeah. Now, I just made an absolute statement. And whenever I do that, Joshua goes, uh-oh. It kind of gives me a, whoops, I made an absolute statement. And I want to correct that. So, our soul, in concert with our spirit, right? So, I see soul as the source of spirit, spirit being personality, energy, essence on the planet. But some people have that role turned around, that my soul is my personality and my spirit was my creator. It doesn't really matter what words we assign to it. But when Joshua is speaking, he will refer to soul as something that creates many lifetimes. And spirit, so it's just one lifetime. Yeah. So my soul, in concert with my spirit, made a plan for this lifetime. Now, the plan, it's not set in concrete, but there were definitely some very specific things that I wanted to accomplish coming into this lifetime. What agreements did I make with my soul? Because you see, once I get here, I totally forget the plan. It was totally erased from my memory. I don't remember sitting down with my soul and saying, I wanted to be a teacher. No, but I did, right? And so if I get into this lifetime and decide I want to be a fireman instead of a teacher, you would find yourself in the role of a fireman who teaches, a fireman who teaches other firemen, perhaps, or a fireman who teaches a specific skill that's needed for the job. So you would fulfill the role of teacher because you and your soul agreed upon it, but maybe you walked a totally different vocation. You could find yourself being a ditch digger or a garbage collector. But in those roles, you would find a way to teach. Now, a lot of people end up teaching by having children, right? You want to teach your children how to get along in the world, how to be successful, how to be happy, all of these things. You become a coach, a teacher, a mentor, but also a loving parent with unconditional love for your children, no matter what they do. So here's the thing about paradox. You can have two statements that are ultimately the truth and be opposites. I used to use the example that we are eternal beings. You have eternal life. Life is everlasting. And yet, one day you will die. Those are contradictory statements, right? And yet, they're both true. One day, the physical material that is this lifetime will vanish. It will disappear, become earth again. And yet, the part of you that animates this physical material, the spirit, cannot die. So, therefore, as Joshua teaches, this lifetime you are having right now is eternal. It didn't really begin and it really cannot end. And yet, in the river of time, it will look like it had a specific beginning. It grew into the shape and form it has now, and then it had to release that material stuff and move on. Yes. And yet, this lifetime is eternal. Now, you will die and you are eternal. Those are paradox. Well, I used to, like I said, I used to use that example a lot until I had a friend tell me he was going to ascend. He and his spouse, they were ascending. So there wouldn't be any death for them. I was like, okay, I'll accept that. Anything is possible. Everything is possible. Anything you can think of is possible. And if you can create it in your mind, you can make it manifest. So I hope they do ascend and their bodies never decay and they get to live in those bodies eternally. Whatever, if they're happy as they are, so be it. It is Joshua's belief, though, that at some point they will grow beyond wanting to stay in the same bodies eternally because there's so much more to experience. If you were born to be male and you lived your whole life as male, do you want to go through all of eternity as male? If you did, you would be out of balance. Whoa, way out of balance. And that is why the soul has lifetimes that are both male and female. Has the soul creates lifetimes where you experience being a parent, being a child, being a male, being female. So all these different experiences are created by the soul itself to balance our energy. Now, by connecting to my soul itself, I am able to balance male female energy with ease, even though I project as male, right? I live my life as a male, and that makes me happy. And yet, I am a gentle man. I am a gentle human. My heart is tender. I am sensitive. I feel all of my emotions and I own them. Even when I'm being a royal bastard, I'll own it. That was me being cranky, grumpy, nasty, and I'm sorry. And I also own it when I'm having fun and feeling great. And yeah, that's me. I was doing that. I was clowning around, couldn't get serious. So by connecting to my soul and seeking balance between my male energy and my feminine energy, then I can live a life that is more middle path. All right. I talked a little bit about middle way, the middle path, which is taught by Buddhism, taught by Buddhists, as being a way that helps us avoid extremes. Okay. So out on the extremes, we don't do well. We want to bring ourselves into center, into balance. All right. I know I've talked about that before. And I'm getting closer and closer to telling you more of my story and who I am. And I hope as you get to know me, that we build a connection because I believe there's a reason you tune into the Joshua Jordan experience. Maybe some of you like Jordan, maybe some of you prefer Joshua. Doesn't matter to me because there's oneness here. We want to share it with you. So, thank you for listening. And now, to the best of my ability, I will let Joshua speak to you. Hello, beloved one. It is my honor and my joy to be speaking to you once again. Thank you so much for tuning in to our program. Yes, we are running a program. The program that Joshua has for you is to learn your whole being, to be at peace and to come to a place of ease within your whole self. I want to expand your understanding and your wisdom so that as you go about your experiences of life, you can look beneath the surface and see more than meets the eye. There is so much more going on here than you can recognize with your five senses. And a part of our teaching is to awaken you to your whole self, where you have countless senses. There are only five physical senses, and yet your science is discovering that is not necessarily so. They have talked about the five senses for so long, and yet they have started to discover there is internal physical senses awareness that escapes definition of the five. So, and those are physical. So, anyway, moving on, the idea that you can live in a paradox is important for you to grasp because there's such a thing as locking on to an idea and believing it to be true such that you lock out. You lock out other ideas that could open your mind, that could open your spirit, that could actually change your life. So you don't want to lock on to this is an absolute belief that I must always hold. You want to have an open mind, hear other people's ideas, other ways of viewing the same things. You see, other people's points of view can enlighten you because you are only looking at it from one point of view, your own point of view, filtering it through all of your belief system, and then deciding what it means. So, listening to other people who have had other life experiences, who look at things from a different point of view, a different perspective than your own, is extremely valuable in your growth. And yet, when you reach the age that Jordan has become, you certainly have adopted a canon of beliefs that guide you on your way every day, and yet he keeps his mind open. He is willing to listen and to hear other points of view. Not too long ago, on one of our videos, someone made a comment to Jordan Joshua that, God, that Jesus is really the only way, and that there's only one way to God, and Jesus loves you, bud, is what the guy said. And we assume it was a guy. And Jordan, in his grace, wrote back, yes, Jesus loves me. I do believe that. I am loved. And thank you for sharing your beliefs. And that's all he needed to say. You see, This person is perfectly content going around in their life trying to help people find a way to Jesus because they believe that is the loving thing to do. And Jordan accepts it in that nature. It is the loving thing you are doing to try to get me saved by Jesus so I can live my eternity in heaven. You know, there was a time actually when that who you know to be Jordan walked that path, walked in those shoes, believed it was his responsibility to help people come to Jesus because that was the only way to salvation. At the time, he did believe that. He was a teenager. He was still learning. He was still growing. And he grew through his Christian experience very quickly, about a year and a half devoted to being a follower of the Christian way. And that was important. It was an important refresher for him to grasp what it is Christianity teaches and why it is so important. And that allows him to have a very open heart to Christian people who want to save his soul because he knows the intention is love. They are doing this because they care for me. They want me to have eternal salvation. He knows now that that is a misunderstanding of the way we experience our oneness with all that is. And still, it allows for openness to other ideas, to sit and to hear a perspective that does not align with his own beliefs, his own life experience, and yet realize that they're coming from an intention of goodness, kindness, of love. And this is how, beloved ones, we are going to transcend the fear based reality by learning not to fear other people's beliefs, by allowing ourselves to trust that I can listen to your beliefs without it affecting my reality at all. What you believe does not create my reality. Only my beliefs can do that. So I can sit and listen to you speak from other perspectives without fearing you, without fearing that you are so different from who I am. I fear our difference. Humanity, humankind is going to step beyond reacting with fear. Now, if someone is actually threatening you because of their beliefs, if they're saying, you must be this way or I will beat the stuffing out of you, that is the time to show fear. That is survival. Yes? You do not need to have the stuffing beat out of you because you don't believe what someone is telling you. So, remove yourself. And if you cannot remove yourself, pray. Call on Joshua and I will answer you. Pray. Also, though, show compassion, show love. Say to that individual, I understand that my beliefs are so different from yours that you fear me and you want to harm me, thinking that's your power, that you will have control over me. But I will tell you, you can beat me to a bloody pulp and I will still hold my beliefs. Show compassion, show love. And I think that that is how I would like to conclude my comments for today. Remember that paradoxical truths exist. You will encounter them in the course of learning oneness. Also, keep in mind that you are absolutely the only source of your reality. You create it, all of it, every bit of it. And the sooner you accept that without resistance, you can drop your fear and begin to, through acceptance, change the world. I love you, and I bid you good day. Thank you for listening. We hope you heard something to ponder and gained inspiration for your journey. Please join us again next time. Joshua says, let the light grow, let love show, and let your life be fun.